Sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up, fucked up, fucked up, fucked up. I was fucked up, fucked up, fucked up, fucked up. I was fucked up, fucked up, fucked up, fucked up. I was fucked up, fucked up, fucked up. When I did it, I was fucked up, fucked up, fucked up, fucked up. I was fucked up, fucked up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you? You know you done fucked up.
All right, so we're back at it. Everyone, please hit that like button. Thank you for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. We're back for Diddy's trial updates, day 12. Okay, so let's get into it. Before we do, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Craft. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so let's go to CNN first. Okay, so from 13 minutes ago, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, who is testifying under the pseudonym of Mia, is back on the stand after a break for lunch. The jury has re-entered the room. Judge Arun Subramanian told jurors that he will keep them. He will likely keep them past 3 p.m. Okay, today and tomorrow, but not later than 4 p.m. 3 minutes ago, Mia said Sean Diddy Combs, one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants and alleged victim, testified that she went on a trip to Turks and Caicos with Combs and Cassie during 2012. She said she witnessed the violence Combs had toward Ventura more than once. She says, I was woken up to Cass running and screaming into the room. She was screaming for help and saying, you got to help me. He's going to kill me. Cass is normally very chill and calm, and it was like the most terrified someone screaming for their life. She and Ventura pushed furniture toward the door, but Combs caught up to Ventura banging and screaming at the door. She said that they ran out the back room through the patio and onto the beach to hide. Honey, this is all crazy. This is the second time someone has said that they had to hide with Cassie. Remember they had to hide in the bushes? So, or when they got off the golf cart or something. Okay, so then 1 minute ago, Mia, one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants and alleged victim, testified about some of the injuries that she would see on Cassie Ventura. She said, I would see bruises on her body and fat lips, busted eyebrow, like a gash on her forehead, black eyes, things like that. The jury was shown a photo of Mia, Mia took of Ventura at the premiere of The Perfect Match. Mia testified that Ventura had bruising on her arm and under her eye that was covered with makeup. Okay, then from 1 minute ago, she testified that on another occasion where she said she and Cassie Ventura ran away from Combs, she said she didn't remember what led to the incident, but she remembers visuals of them hiding and trying to escape. Honey, this sounds like a horror movie. Mia testified that she and Ventura took paddle boards that they found on the beach and paddled out to sea, while Combs was running back and forth on the beach behind the house screaming at us. She described him as irate. Mia said that they got far out on the water, but then the weather took a turn. She said they were trying to decide if it was scarier to face Mother Nature or go back to Puff. Isn't that something? Eventually they went back to shore. Honey, this is all crazy. Honey, they took to the, two if by land, three if by sea. Are y'all hearing this? Oh my Lord, this man is a nightmare on Elm Street. OG Patrice said you can't make this ish up, okay? What in the world? Can you imagine running for your literal life from some fool? Then you get a paddleboard and you just rowing out to sea, trying to get away from this fool? Oh, this is all crazy, okay? This is all crazy. Okay, so anyway, DJ Big Six said straight horror movie. Exactly. This is all nefarious. Let's go to Inner City Press. Okay, so Inner City Press says, let me see here, from about 8 minutes ago. AUSA says, what's this? And then she shows Mia a photo. She says, it's a photo of Cass eating a hot dog at the premiere of her movie, The Perfect Match. She has bruising under her makeup. I took the photo. AUSA says, any other injuries covered up on a red carpet? She says, yes, at the Cannes Film Festival. AUSA says, what injuries did you see? She says, a busted lip. She was injured. AUSA says, where were you? She says, in her hotel room with Larry Sims, her hairstylist. AUSA says, did you learn how she got the injuries? She says, Cass had an audio recording of Puff attacking her. So she recorded his stupid self. Had an audio recording of him attacking her, honey. This is all so sad, honey. At the end of the day, what kind of life was this to even live, honey? I'm sorry, but I could never put up with such nefariousness. Honey, I would have killed Diddy or he would have killed me at the end of the day. Okay. Okay, so I'm getting rid of, I'm banning Anthony Ray because he's stupid, sitting here talking about fake news, all lies. He's nothing but a troll. Okay, when you all see somebody trolling, let me know so I can get their dumb asses out of here because nobody has time for it, talking about all lies. Honey, bye. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the video that we were watching right before we took a break. We were at the 15-minute mark, and this was burden of proof, Diddy trial, and they were talking about day 11, which was yesterday. Okay, so let's get back into that while we wait for further updates.
Legal strategies that we saw playing out in court. Brian Buckmeyer playing the defense, Bernarda Villalona playing prosecutor. Brian, let's start with you. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. The fingerprint evidence from the break-in at Kid Cudi's house. It caused a whole thing in court today. Why did that cause such a stir?
Because the insinuation that the defense made that the government was attempting to do, that there were fingerprints, clearly no one knew who they connected with, that were on the glass of the Kid Cudi's home, and also that we just heard that there were fingerprints on the Porsche 911. It was insinuated that at some point in time they were going to cross-reference them and see who it was. You know, Sean Combs was accused of burglarizing Kid Cudi's home, and then it got to the point of like, okay, it's destroyed. How do these people get destroyed? And it kept going and going and going to the point is like, where are you trying to land this plane? And when they got to the point of asking, is it unusual for these to be destroyed? That's when the defense jumped up and said, we can see where you're trying to land this plane, and that's improper. And that's why they brought up the mistrial. And I think whenever you have an opportunity to argue mistrial, you do it because you don't know if it's going to work in this trial or on appeal. We've seen cases like the Rust case with Alec Baldwin, where a mistrial argument actually led to a dismissal. That's what they're hoping for. Doesn't always happen, but you make the argument anyways.
Where were they trying to land the plane?
I don't know.
So for the prosecution, when you see something like this happen, does this worry you at all that this could come back to haunt you later?
Yes, but usually when you're the prosecutor and you're the person that's trying the case, your goal is to get the conviction and let someone else deal with the appeal. But I would say I was in a courtroom when this happened.
some more updates, but I want you all to pay attention to what they just said. Okay, they were talking about, the lady asked, do you worry about some of this stuff coming back up on appeal? Well, of course you do. Okay, and then like she said, the prosecution is just trying to get the conviction. See, the prosecution just wants the win. Okay, they want another notch under their belt. If it goes to appeal, then there's likely someone else will have to deal with it. And here's the thing. If by any chance Diddy's conviction, because he is going to be convicted, I'm pretty certain. But if his conviction is overturned due to prior bad acts and a myriad of other things that they've alleged, well, and if he is granted a new trial, just think about that. Because do you think Cassie or any of these people want to have to walk back up in court to testify again? See, that would all work in Diddy's favor, because half of these people are not even going to show up if called back for a darn mistrial, okay, where he's granted a new trial. Whether if it ends in a hung jury, which would cause a trigger a mistrial, or if the conviction is overturned and then he's granted a new trial, like Harvey Weinstein. Okay, these people are not going to want to come back, and who would? Okay, so. Okay, so this is from CNN 2 minutes ago. A former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs says that she witnessed more violent incidents between Combs and his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, than the ones that she has testified to today. But she didn't report the abuse to police for multiple reasons. She said, I believe that Puff's authority was above the police. Okay. She said this was a period where years and years before social media or Me Too or any sort of example where someone had stood up successfully to someone in power, such as him. She said Combs had also constantly stressed confidentiality. She was taught to believe that the violence she witnessed fell under the requirement of loyalty that she had to Combs's business. Now, I was supposed to protect him from people. This is what she said. So many people were trying to blackmail him. Okay, I came to believe reporting anything was blackmail. So people were trying to blackmail Diddy. Now, 2 minutes ago, Cassie Ventura would stay in hotels when her injuries were too obvious to cover up before she had her own place in Los Angeles, according to Mia, one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants. Now, when Mia visited Ventura at a hotel while she was recovering, they weren't allowed to leave the room. Ventura would eventually leave after her injuries had healed enough to cover up. Honey, can you imagine sitting in a darn hotel trying to recover because somebody's beating the crap out of you? You can't even go anywhere. Honey, I'd have gone to the police. Miss me with it. Now, Mia testified that Sean Diddy Combs appeared heartbroken when he found out Cassie Ventura was seeing Kid Cudi. Instead of just mad, he was upset. Normally, he was just angry and aggressive. And this time, he felt like almost this dark calm before the storm, she said, adding that she was bracing herself for something really bad to happen. Y'all hear this? Honey, the devil had a broken heart. From 1 minute ago, one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants, Mia, testified that Ventura had visible injuries during the 2012 Cannes Film Festival. Mia recalled that she saw Ventura's busted lip and other injuries in a hotel room, along with Ventura's hairstylist. Ventura played a recording of Mia, who testified that she could hear Combs yelling at Ventura as he attacked her. She could hear the sound of someone getting hit and being attacked, essentially. During a movie premiere in Cannes, Mia testified she saw Combs aggressively talking to Ventura through gritted teeth and digging his nails into her arm. Oh, honey, do y'all hear this? This is so darn horrific. Digging, just imagine somebody grabbing you by your arm to their nails or digging into your flesh, and they're talking to you through gritted teeth. Okay, absolutely obnoxious. Okay, 5 minutes ago from Inner City Press, AUSA says, how was he? Mia says, he seemed heartbroken. Okay, it was ominous. I've never witnessed Cass to do something to really cause him to be upset. I felt something bad would happen. AUSA says, did you see her then? She says, in a black car with Capricorn Clark. AUSA says, did you reach out to anyone? She says, yes, to D-Rock. AUSA then shows her an exhibit and says, what is this? She says, my emails to D-Rock. AUSA says, only the redacted one into evidence. Now, Brian Steele says, same objection. Okay, so he's objecting to this. AUSA says he was security. Judge says with that, foundation admitted. Okay. So let's go back to the video.
Happened, and literally they were gasps in the air, in the sense of that the person that was sitting next, we started looking at each other and we were looking at the jury. In terms of the defense asked for a mistrial, but that was later on, not in the presence of the jury. But it was clear from how the questions were going that the insinuation was that someone in Diddy's camp was responsible for getting rid of those fingerprint cards, especially when you take into account Capricorn Clark had testified that she had this conversation with Harv Pierre, who's in the defense's camp, shortly before she got fired, which was around the time of when this fingerprint card disappeared.
Oh.
So huge concern for the prosecution, but this prosecution is not thinking about it because their goal is to get a conviction, not to worry about the appeal.
All right, the credibility of the arson investigator also seemed to be something the defense was sort of trying to make an issue today. Why? What was the issue here?
Well, this is how it works when it comes to credibility. If you don't have the facts, you argue the law. If you don't have the law or the facts, you argue credibility. And when it comes to this investigation, you're trying to say this investigation was steered by Kid Cudi. There is clearly a black glove inside of that car. It's the crime scene. Why would you not test it? What? Because the person told you not to test it? That's not how law enforcement operates. Now, are you making a mountain out of a molehill? Absolutely. But this is why we put on nice suits and become defense attorneys, because sometimes those mountains do get acquittals. And so you're going to try to get that one person on the jury to be like, you know what? Yeah, they should have checked that glove. And because they did it, I'm not quite sure of this predicate act. And that's how you try to walk your way to an acquittal.
Your response?
So in terms of the glove, I wasn't concerned about it, because during redirect, the prosecution immediately went and asked this investigator, was like, look, is there a reason why you didn't find that the glove was of importance? And the investigator was like, of course, because the owner of the car said it's my glove. Obviously, he didn't set his own car on fire.
How is that obvious unless you test the glove?
It's his glove. He's not going to burn his own car. An entire investigation, so it's not relevant to the investigation.
Yes, no one's ever burned their own property before in the whole history of
Okay. All right, let's move on to this next issue. The celebrity stylist that took the stand, he said he heard Combs tell Ventura, quote, he would beat her. If you're the defense, you hear him say that, what are you thinking?
I think similar to what we saw in other witnesses, you avoid that conversation and you try to go somewhere else. Because I think when it comes to Deontay Nash, he was a phenomenal witness for the government in trying to show coercion and control and the assault. I mean, when they're talking about Cassie hearing that Sean Combs is downstairs and trying to jump off of a balcony, you try to avoid that and you try to focus on other issues of this case, where you're going to try to paint the relationship with Cassie and Sean Combs as toxic, equally using drugs. You're going to try to continue down that path of these are two individuals who are in the thralls of drug abuse and domestic violence, and this isn't trafficking, this is domestic violence. You try to pivot how you're going to talk about that conversation.
How does Deontay Nash help the prosecution?
Deontay Nash played a crucial part in the prosecution's case today. And Deontay Nash was, number one, able to corroborate the violence. Number two, corroborate the control that Sean Combs had over her career. But number three, also corroborated the sense that for the first time, you're hearing that Cassie had told someone that, look, I did not want to participate in the freak-offs. I did not want to go to the hotel. So instead of the jury trying to infer that that's what she felt and didn't want to participate in this freak-offs, now you have it coming out of her own mouth. While it's taking place, she's telling someone else. And Deontay Nash came off very credible. But I want to spin off to another question that was asked of Deontay Nash, that was asked during cross-examination, and which was a bombshell for the defense. When asked whether Deontay Nash, whether he was an employee of the enterprise, yes. He got paid by Bad Boy, yes. Did you participate in any criminal activity under Mr. Combs? Yes. Huge bombshell, because now you have the criminal enterprise and people acting and committing crimes under that criminal enterprise. They weren't expecting that answer.
Did they say what he did? Did he say?
No, they moved.
Okay, she pointed that out. I also pointed that out. But here's the thing. They already had the establishment of the criminal enterprise, because she must have missed the memo. He wasn't the first to admit that he committed crimes with Diddy. Okay, because remember, David James talked about going to pick up Ruggs with a D for Diddy and buying the 8 ball for Nelly. And then George Kaplan also committed crimes. That's why they granted him immunity right before he took the stand. So they'd already established the criminal enterprise as far as I'm concerned. He is just another element that was added to it. Please pay attention.
Moved on faster, maybe, because that is a bombshell. They asked a question that they didn't know the answer to.
Which is a cardinal sin for any defense attorney. If you don't know the answer, don't ask a question, because you get stuff like that could bury your case.
Right. And wasn't that Diddy's attorney who asked that question, Xavier Donaldson? If you all remember yesterday, I was like, where is he going with this line of questioning? Because it seems like he's helping the prosecution. Okay, Reggie says, however, in an investigation, no stone is not to be overturned or unturned. The glove should have been tested and cleared. You know what? I was thinking the same thing, because I'm wondering, was that really Kid Cudi's glove? Was that really his driving glove? He only had one. Maybe it was, but they probably still should have checked it, because perhaps Kid Cudi knew that it belonged to Diddy, or felt like it would have some sort of DNA or something that would connect it to Diddy or someone in his inner circle, and didn't want to be viewed as a snitch. I don't know, but I'm not so sure that was actually his darn glove. Okay, because that just all sounds sketchy. Because why is there only one? Okay, but let's continue.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Brian Buckmeyer, Bernardo Villalona, thank you both for being with us. Coming up, will Diddy take the stand? We're answering some of the top questions people are asking about the trial online when we come back.
I haven't been to the grocery store in over a year, but I'm eating healthier than ever. Here's how I did it. Meal planning used to be such
Welcome back. There is so much interest in this trial. We're taking a look at some of the top searches online. Some of today's biggest search terms include Deontay Nash's testimony, will Diddy testify, what is a mistrial, and Cassie gives birth. ABC News contributor Kelly Carter joins us now from Los Angeles. She covers entertainment and pop culture for us. So the question that we've seen a lot of people searching, will Diddy testify? I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
I mean, question that needs an answer. Everyone wants to know, are we going to actually hear from Sean Combs himself? I think part of this is this idea of, there's his side, her side, the truth. They want to hear what he has to say. So let's see. It remains to be seen. We don't know that answer just yet.
People are also searching, what is a mistrial?
I've said this before. This all is reminiscent of the People versus OJ. People are learning in real time, about the American justice system, and learning, terms like what a mistrial is. That would have effectively meant everything would have had the reset button. We would have had to start over. I don't think that anyone working on this trial really wants that.
And we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Cassie gives birth.
Cassie is a new mom again, ×3, which again reminds us how close to delivering she was when she actually was on the stand 2 weeks ago.
Kelly Carter, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be back with new episodes every day of the trial on ABC News Live, Disney Plus, and Hulu at 5:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. And make sure to follow our podcast, Bad Rap.
Okay, so with that all been said, honey, nobody wants to go through this whole thing again. Okay, that's what they don't want to do. Let me see if we have any further updates. Okay, nothing from CNN. Let me see here. Okay, 6 minutes ago, Inner City Press says, AUSA read some messages. Okay, so she read some messages, and then Mia says, I wrote to D-Rock. I'm worried about P. This feels different. Hit this email when you get it. Love you. AUSA says, were you romantically involved with D-Rock? She says, definitely not. That's just how we talked. Okay. Then Mia says, Astroglide. Hold on, something's missing. Hold on. That's just how we talked. Okay, so then it goes to 3 minutes ago. It says, Mia says, Astroglide and candles, some of them cheap Glade candles without the label on it, they had to be white. Okay, AUSA says, what else would you do? What else would you bring to the hotel? Mia says, anything that he forgot at the house, food, money. Okay, AUSA says, how much? She said a lot, like thousands of dollars. AUSA says, do you remember seeing Cassie? She says, at the London Hotel in New York, I brought something to the room. Cass opened the door. She was wearing a bright blue wig. AUSA says, how did she appear? Mia said, like she was struggling. I asked, are you good? She closed the door. Like she was struggling, honey. I wonder what was going on that day. AUSA says, who told you to clean the rooms? She says, Puff and the office. It was standard to sweep the rooms so no housekeeper could sell something to TMZ. AUSA says, how were the rooms? She said, destroyed, candle wax everywhere. I've seen broken glass, sometimes blood, oil on the walls. Honey, I'd have been wearing a whole hazmat suit if I had to clean up that nasty ish. Okay, and so that's it for the updates for now. Y'all hear this? Absolutely crazy. Reggie said, fighting for her life in a FO. Okay. Mel said, I don't think Diddy will testify. I don't think he will either, even though initially he did tell his attorneys that he wanted to take the stand. And I said, honey, that's the worst thing he can darn do. Get up there and think you're going to outwit the prosecution and get up there telling them damn lies that we all know he's going to tell. Okay, please make that make sense. Okay. Please make that make sense, honey. That would definitely not end in his favor. So anyway, hold on. Let me see what we can find here. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, so Script News. I don't know who this is. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to CBS, see what they're talking about while we wait. OG Patrice said if Diddy goes to the stand, he's going to pull a Nino Brown. Okay, but who's he going to blame it on, honey?
Place you may have heard about, New York City. That's where the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs continues today. You've probably heard a lot about that as well. A defense motion for a mistrial was denied yesterday. So today, a stylist who worked for Combs is set to resume testimony, and our Katrina Kaufman has been inside the courtroom today. Joins us from outside with an update. Katrina, what have you heard so far?
Hi, Reed. So that stylist is Deontay Nash. He is now finished testifying, but through the cross and redirect of him, we learned a little bit more. Just for context, this is someone who worked with both Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs for many years. He's still very close with Ventura, and he's someone who testified about witnessing instances of violence and abuse and who also experienced violence from Sean Combs. But one thing he testified about that poked a little bit of a hole in the defense's case is they've been trying to paint Ventura as jealous of Combs and his other relationships. And what Nash said is she actually wasn't that bothered by that. But what did bother her was that it made her look bad when he was out with other women, that she felt like it was hurtful to her career. So he also said that he was always concerned about Ventura's safety. And that was something that was constant, that Combs was someone where things could go from happy to chaotic in a split second. And so he was very temperamental. And that, Reed, is testimony that has now continued. We're hearing from one of the alleged victims of Sean Combs, who's going by a pseudonym of Mia. This is a former employee of Combs who says that she witnessed abuse, that she was abused by Combs, violence, sexual assault, that on a number of occasions she saw him being violent with Cassie Ventura more times than she can even count, Reed. She also recounted what the work conditions were like with him. Starting on her very first day on the job, she said that she didn't get any sleep during those first 24 hours, and that there was once a stretch of 5 days, Reed, where she did not get to sleep. She had to be by Combs' side all the time from morning until night. She also wasn't allowed to go out without his permission. This is something that we heard from Cassie Ventura as well, Reed. She told one story about a night where Combs had gone to sleep. She thought that she could go out. It was really late at night to see some friends. He woke up, realized that she wasn't around, sent security after her. So we're just hearing all of these stories about control and constraint.
And let me just tell you all something too. This all is a part of the trafficking, because trafficking, you know, they put in the indictment forced labor, okay, which is also an element of trafficking. Now, with that all being said, all of these employees who've said that they were working, they weren't paid what they were supposed to be paid, they were underpaid. In fact, they couldn't leave. They had to work for 24 hours, 5 days in a row. All of that is trafficking. Okay, this is all human trafficking. This is what they do when they get people off the streets and take them and, you know, promise them they're going to give them a job and they're going to make all this money. They have these people literally working maybe 12 to 18 hours per day, paying them very little, and they're forbidden to leave the premises. Okay, that's the same thing. That's what Diddy was doing, forced labor. So there is the trafficking for the forced labor. That has already been proven as far as I'm concerned. And then the S trafficking. Okay, so you're making people have relations. Well, first of all, they already got him, period, with that anyway, dead to right, because the Mann Act, what he's charged under, okay, in the Mann Act, all you have to do is basically take someone across state lines to engage in prostitution. And we already know he did that when he paid those S workers to come. But then for him to have Cassie having freak offs when she didn't want to, even if she did at some point, sometimes she didn't want to. That's obvious to me from the testimonies we've heard. And so he was making her do it even when she didn't want to. So that absolutely is S trafficking. Okay, so anyway, Diddy's done. His goose is cooked, honey, and I'm glad.
Around Combs, as well as corroboration of stories that we heard from Ventura, as well as from Deontay Nash. Mia also recounted a story about Combs coming to Ventura's apartment one day. He was very upset. He couldn't reach her. Ultimately, he ended up attacking her and hitting her head on the side of a bed. Deontay Nash also told this story yesterday. So we've heard two versions, Reed.
Okay, so Michael M says some of their compensation was living quarters, automobiles, and things of that sort. No, that wasn't their compensation, beloved, because if you're supposed to get paid in cash, give me my money. I didn't ask you to pay for a hotel room or for an apartment for me to stay in on the property or for you to give me an automobile. The only reason Diddy was doing those things for them, in my opinion, was so that he could exert his power and control. If they were living in their own residences, he would have had no control. But if they're living under his roof or in something that is owned by him and driving his cars, you know, at the end of the day, that's how he was able to exert his control. This was all force and coercion. Okay. And then also it was fraud, because he fraudulently hired these people under the guise that this is going to be a big job opportunity. They're going to be making X amount of dollars. And then he underpaid them what he initially agreed to. Okay. And then all of these things that they didn't agree to, they were made to do, such as engage in illegal activities. Now, Michael says, how can it be forced labor when they had a choice to leave? Well, here's the thing. Leave, and then something very bad might happen. So there goes the force and coercion. Some of them didn't leave because they were afraid of what would happen, and also because they needed those jobs. This is no different than when people are forced into forced labor with human trafficking. It's the same thing. You could ask the same question. Why didn't they leave? How was it forced labor? Because these people were put in warehouses or, you know, forced to work in hazardous conditions without any proper protective gear or anything. They had to work for hours on end, almost entire days with no lunch breaks or anything in between. And then they were threatened that if they would leave, something bad would happen. These people would threaten their families, you know, their loved ones, their lives, and things like that. So all of these things are elements which would keep someone who was fearful from trying to leave, beloved. Okay?
They both recounted jumping on Combs, trying to get him to stop attacking Cassie Ventura. But in the end, she had blood gushing from her head and had to go see a doctor. She ended up with stitches from that incident. And this testimony is only continuing for the next couple days, Reed.
Katrina Coppin, we appreciate you stepping out from that testimony to update our national audience. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Brother Nature. My sister, Mother Nature, grows everything organic, but she needs me to make things.
Good evening. I'm Mike Marza, recapping what has been another key day in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The third week of testimony began today following the holiday weekend, and the federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs resumed. Taking the stand today, Combs' former personal assistant, Capricorn Clark. Clark testifying about the times that she says she was held against her will several times. She testified that she witnessed Combs assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and she says there were even threats of murder. In just a moment, we'll be joined by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Villalona to talk about everything that happened in court today. But first up, Darla Miles with a recap from Lower Manhattan.
In court Tuesday morning, Capricorn Clark, a former employee of Bad Boy Entertainment, in tears as she walked jurors through incidents with Sean Combs when she was kidnapped at gunpoint, assaulted at his Miami estate, and her life was threatened. Prosecutors asking, how often did Mr. Combs make threats to you? Clark responding, often. The LA native testifying when she was first hired in 2004 that Combs and a member of his security team took her to Central Park at night, saying he didn't know that I had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, I would have to kill you. And again in 2011, Clark testifying that.
Okay, Michael says, I have not heard anyone testify that if they left, there would be some type of consequences. Beloved, you didn't hear that? Because the witness that's on the stand right now, Mia, has already said that. She said that she left his residence at Star 2, okay, in Florida, and then there was consequences. She said she knew she was going to be in big trouble, and then he told her to get back there. She left at 2 a.m. in the morning while he was asleep. The security came back to get her. Diddy was a devil, a tyrant, okay? He didn't care anything about the law. He had money and power, was in cahoots with the police, and also probably the feds, okay, as has been alleged. So with that all being said, these people were caught between a rock and a hard place, okay? Where do you go if someone has ties within the police department? Who do you think was the ones that, destroyed the fingerprint evidence from Kid Cudi's home break-in? Quite frankly, it was likely somebody that Diddy knew in the LAPD who got them to do it. Let's not forget his chief bodyguard or chief of security, Fahim Muhammad, actually was the person who could get rid of anybody or anything, according to Rodney Jones's lawsuit. There have been many people who have said, I don't know how you missed the testimony, beloved, but there have been several of his assistants who talked about how fearful they were of him. Now, some of them finally did leave. Okay, a couple of them finally did leave. But the point is, while they were there, they were tortured, they were intimidated, okay, they were forced and coerced into a myriad of things. Bottom line is, no matter how we slice it, Diddy's going down. He's guilty as hell.
Combs told Cassie and her to make sure Kid Cudi did not report the home break-in to police. And if you don't convince him of that, I'll kill all you expletive. Telling the court about a third time the night of the Kid Cudi break-in, saying, I should kill all you expletive and I should cut her face. Clark copied on this December 20.
Okay, so did you just hear that in case you missed the testimony days ago? When Diddy told her that he would have someone physically hurt Scott Muscuddy, aka Kid Cudi and Cassie, but he also said that he would kill all you MFers and have someone cut her face. Okay, you don't think that's cause for someone to be fearful for their lives? And let's not forget, there had also been rumors that Diddy had something to do with the demise of Tupac and Biggie. So let's not forget that they probably heard those same rumors, okay, and thought they could just turn up dead and there would be no consequences for the perpetrators. Okay, that's right. Reggie says Fahim was the fixer. Exactly. They went to him, for anything that they needed to get cleaned up. Okay.
2011 email that Cassie Ventura sent to her mother, citing threats to hurt Scott Muscuddy, the actor and musician known as Kid Cudi, whom she had just started dating. Defense attorneys challenging Clark's version of the story, asking, is it true that you went so he wouldn't do something stupid? Clark answering no. The defense attorney asking again, you're saying you didn't want to go and you told him you didn't want to go and went with him anyway? She says, yes, sir. I went because he told me I didn't have a choice. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, with the style of repeating the same question multiple times, asking again, if anything happened, you would be out of a job, right? Clark responding, I didn't want to go, sir. Agnifilo working to chip away at Clark's credibility, introducing an old text message that reads, Totally unrelated to our conversation, but did you know that I had the biggest crush on you before I started working with you? Agnifilo asking Clark, do you remember telling Mr. Combs you had a crush on him ever since going back? Clark responding no. Agnifilo asking again, do you remember telling him you had the biggest crush on him? Clark responding, I don't remember.
Surprise, it's me, your oil change light. Here to ruin your day. Remember that last...
This text. Now, Clark was the only witness to take the stand today. Her testimony has ended and court has ended for the day. Court will resume tomorrow morning with the testimony of an LAPD officer and an LAFD arson investigator.
Well, our thanks to Darla Miles out there. You were in court as well, actually sitting right by Darla. You heard a lot today from Ms. Clark on the stand all day. What was the biggest takeaway before we dig into some of the details here?
Oh my God, biggest takeaway that she was first a former personal assistant of Diddy Combs in the years that she worked within Diddy's camp. So we knew she had a lot of inside information. But in terms of the most damning testimony, I think it's a three-part. One, when she was kidnapped multiple times, having to deal with her, forcing her to undergo a lie detector test. Secondly, when she was kidnapped, in order for Diddy forced her to go to Kid Cudi's house, and that Combs had a gun on him, because we heard testimony before having to deal with Kid Cudi and that Diddy had went to the home, but not that he had a gun on him and was going there to actually shoot him. So I think those were the most standout parts of today's testimony, having to deal with Capricorn Clark.
All right, so let's rewind a little bit. You mentioned the lie detector test. She testified that there was a big man, like 5 times her size, right?
Yes.
Which ended up being one of the security guards of Sean Combs. And there was a point where Sean Combs accused Capricorn Clark of stealing jewelry that was loaned to him, 3 pieces, right, from Jacob the jeweler, well-known jeweler in the hip-hop world in particular. But there was some sort of event. It was a white party, I believe, in the Hamptons, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then the jewels went missing.
Yes.
She was blamed for taking them. Take us through that testimony and how that played in the courtroom.
So in terms of that testimony, and this came early on during her testimony in her direct examination by the prosecutor. So the prosecutor had asked her, when did she start working for Sean Combs? And actually it was pretty early in her employment, but that Sean Combs was going to travel and that he had gotten some jewelry from Jacob the jeweler. In fact, there was 3 pieces, one of them having to be a chain with a large cross on it. And that Capricorn was in charge of getting that jewelry to the next location. At some point while they are traveling, Capricorn realizes, oh my God, where's the jewelry? And she lets Diddy know, as well as Diddy's camp know, that the jewelry is missing. She doesn't end up traveling with Diddy Combs. Instead, what Diddy has happened to her is that a security guard accompanies her to her home. They search her house to see if the jewelry is there. And then the very next day, they take her from the house and take her to this like abandoned like building, no furniture, the floors were undone.
Because I believe it's where they were refurbishing to make it the new bad boy headquarters.
She didn't even know that.
It was like a folding table, right?
It was like a scene from a movie, like a mob boss movie. So they have her in the middle of this room with a 6-foot-long table, and you have a man who's 5 times her size and talking about that she has to pass this test, or if not, they're going to find her body in the East River. So she undergoes this lie detector test. They lock the door. She's not able to leave the location, so she stays there for long hours. Test is inconclusive. Security guard takes her back to her home, picks her up the next day, another lie detector test, still not conforming with the test. Take her home, bring her back the next day.
And this is the kidnapping,
Yes.
right?
So before we thought the kidnapping had to do with Diddy taking her to Kid Cudi's house, but here we have 2 different sets of kidnapping. We have the kidnapping to take this lie detector test where she's not free to go, and then you have the kidnapping of her being forced to go to Kid Cudi's home. So again, riveting testimony, and the jurors were taking a lot of notes as she was testifying, because she also was so emotional, like her voice cracked. I would say at least 75% of her direct examination, it was like her voice was cracking where she was at the verge of tears doing this testimony.
So it was interesting because you hear that and you hear the emotional testimony that she gave, but then you see the text messages that the defense put up saying, did you know I had a crush on you?
Yeah, but I'm not concerned because, Mike, let's think back. So Capricorn Carter, she started working with Diddy probably like in her late teens, early when she was like 20 something. We're talking about text messages from almost 20 years ago.
Gotcha.
So you're going to remember every text message, and especially while she was young at that she sent to Sean Combs. I'm curious to know how was it that the prosecution was able to get those text messages, whether she had in her possession a phone or phones, her old phones, or whether this is from Sean Combs' phone that they were able to get that. Again, we're talking about many years ago.
And prosecutors are trying to put this into the context of the enterprise part,
Yes,
right?
yes. So I'll tell you this, Mike, that today was the most productive day when we are talking about racketeering conspiracy.
Gotcha.
For the prosecution proving the racketeering conspiracy. Why do I say that? Capricorn Clark, an insider, former personal assistant of Combs, had known him for several years, was able to put together one, what's the criminal enterprise? Who are the co-conspirators? Who's working with Diddy to further these criminal acts? And today, Capricorn Clark was able to tie it in with the security guard. The security guard, one that took having to deal with the lie detector test, and also the security guard who was in the car and drove to Kid Cudi's house when Sean Combs had a firearm in his possession. So they were able to put evidence as to the enterprise portion and who was involved, and also as to the racketeering predicate acts, which you have to prove 2 of those in order to find Sean Combs guilty of racketeering conspiracy, where he faces up to life. And here you have one of those acts being the kidnapping.
Let us borrow your legal hat. Predicate acts. What is that exactly?
So for racketeering conspiracy, it's not enough that you prove that there's a criminal enterprise. You have to prove that the criminal enterprise acted in a pattern of racketeering activities. Here, the prosecution has laid out specific acts having to deal with kidnapping, arson, sex trafficking, bribery. Like those are some of the crimes that are listed out in the indictment. So even though those are a plethora of crimes, the prosecution only has to prove 2 of those in order for Sean Combs to be found guilty of the racketeering conspiracy.
One more point on today's testimony. It was the point when Kid Cudi's life, according to the testimony from Ms. Clark, was threatened by Sean Combs.
Oh, yes.
And this is the second time now. We heard about the Suge Knight incident before, but Kid Cudi, and to catch people up, Kid Cudi had briefly dated Cassie Ventura. We know the history that Cassie Ventura had with Sean Diddy Combs, which is really at the center of this case. What was that testimony about the threats on Kid Cudi's life?
Yes. So in terms of the threats on Kid Cudi's life, Capricorn Clark testified that Sean Combs threatened the life of Kid Cudi to actually unalive Kid Cudi on multiple occasions, not just one, but specifically on the day where Capricorn Clark was kidnapped and forced to go to Kid Cudi's home, that Sean Diddy Combs went there armed with a firearm to kill Kid Cudi. And that on other occasions, separate from that Capricorn Clark was charged with from Sean Combs, like, you better make sure that he does not talk to the police, if not, if his life that's actually in danger. So now we have Sean Combs, not just that he had a gun when they went after Suge Knight, but now we have him with a gun when he goes after Kid Cudi. Plus, take into account the AR-15s that were recovered inside of his house during the search warrant. So this is a different light that the prosecution was able to paint Sean Combs in.
And we know Kid Cudi's car was firebombed.
Yes.
Now, who did it? That's up for, the part of the testimony that we expect to hear tomorrow from this fire expert, right? This LAFD, right?
Yes, but the fire expert's not going to be able to tell you that Sean Combs is a person that was personally responsible for firebombing or placing this Molotov cocktail inside of this car, because number one, no one was cooperative with the investigation. In fact, Capricorn Clark, she was questioned, or they wanted to question her, and she hung up the phone and didn't participate in this questioning. So, Mike, just to be fair as to both sides, so we laid out what the prosecution proved with Capricorn Clark. The defense, in terms of their cross-examination, Mark Anifilo did the cross-examination, was able to make some good points for his side in the sense of proving that, look, Cassie, she was an artist. She wasn't an excellent artist, but she had opportunity to further her career. So that doesn't mean that she was under the thumbnail of Sean Combs when we're talking about coercion. Also, they made some leeway in terms of prior inconsistent statements that Capricorn Clark had made that's different than the statements that she gave while she was on the stand. Now, in the end, the jury was taking notes during direct examination and during cross-examination, but I think the prosecution is going to have some loose ends that they'll have to explain in terms of those inconsistencies that Capricorn Clark gave to this jury today.
Turning our attention to tomorrow, we also heard today from the prosecution, outside the jury, I believe, but from the prosecution, that their case is actually going quicker than we initially thought.
Yes, and I have to give great praise to the judge, because the judge has been running a tight ship. First off, the lunch breaks are like 30 minutes. Were 30 minutes for the first few weeks. It was just today that they extended it 45 minutes. I think we may even have had an hour today. So he definitely makes sure that the prosecutor is not wasting the jurors' time, in the sense of having a witness prepared and available at all times. So the jury is not just sitting there and they're not ending early because a juror witness is not available. But in terms of the prosecution, yes, they do believe that they're going to end much earlier than they thought, but we still don't know whether the defense is going to put up a case. My understanding, I believe that the defense is going to call one witness, which is a clinical forensic clinician, to come in, a psychologist to come in and testify. So that may be one of the witnesses that we see on the defense side.
And then finally, do we glean anything from the prosecution being ahead of schedule? What does that tell us as we're trying to read the tea leaves?
Well, it's quite possible, and we don't know yet, that maybe one of their key witnesses may not be testifying, but we don't know. They have until the last day, right before they rest, to bring that witness forward. I know that they've been having issues with bringing a certain witness forward even before they started the trial. In fact, there were arguments from both sides where the defense didn't want the prosecution to be able to mention that name of that victim or that witness, because they didn't believe that the prosecution would be able to bring that witness in front of this jury. So that may be the case, but also they've streamlined the evidence in the sense of that a lot of the evidence now they want to bring in charts. So with the charts, they claim that the charts would save the prosecution days of testimony. So if the judge allows those chart summaries, that is going to save time on the prosecution's part. And we heard that today outside of the presence of the jury, that they want to submit these charts into evidence to save a few days off from the jury having to hear boring testimony.
We'll see. We'll see. Certainly has not been boring today.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Definitely a lot to get to. And there is more tomorrow. Court resumes tomorrow morning. So stay with Eyewitness News and ABC7NY for all the updates. We have a real-time blog, by the way. All the updates coming straight from the courthouse, straight from the courtroom. You can follow those details, again, at ABC7NY.
Okay, so let's see what updates we have here. Nothing from Inner City Press and from CNN, okay? So Mia talks about how she had to sweep everything. Now, we actually already heard some of this from Inner City Press, but I'm going to read it nonetheless in case there's extra information. Okay, so she talks about how she had to sweep everything from the hotel rooms, anything potentially damaging to his reputation. The ex-employee testifying under the pseudonym Mia said that it was standard procedure to sweep the rooms to make sure there wasn't anything a housekeeper could use and take to see TMZ or any other celebrity news outlet. The rooms would be a nightmare with baby oil, candle wax, and sometimes blood to clean up. And then Combs told Mia it was monthly blood. That's what he told her. He said it was blood from the monthly. Okay, honey, this is all crazy. Now, it was also Mia's job to take Combs and Ventura to the hotels and set up their rooms. She'd unpack toiletries, including lotions, baby oil, and lubricant. Candles were also always on the list. They had to be white, and if they were glade, the label had to be ripped off. Mia would then be on call in case Combs asked her to bring something else. Okay, 3 minutes ago, the former assistant testifying in Sean Diddy Combs' trial says the music mogul would alternate between treating her like his best friend or a working partner, and then like a worthless piece of crap. He would humiliate me. He would curse at me. He would go on really long, extended rants about how incompetent and stupid I was, threaten my job. Okay, this is all what he would do. Now, the other assistants have said very similar things. Combs threw things at her, including a bowl of spaghetti, turkey meat, a phone, and a computer. Combs knew she wanted to work on film and TV projects, which she did through his Revolt production companies. Mia said there were times that he would take projects on her credits. He would take projects or her credits on them away from her, or threatened to do so when he was angry. So sometimes she didn't even get credit for her work. Honey, I would not have wanted to work for this man. Okay, he's so darn ridiculous and stupid. And here's another thing. On the night when Mia and Cassie went to Prince's party, Diddy had supposedly told them not to go. He told Cassie she wasn't going to go, that she couldn't go, and told Mia to sit there and watch, you know, to make sure that she didn't try to go. So they ended up sneaking to the party anyway, and we're having a good time until guess who shows up. Okay, so she tries to leave. Cassie and Mia try to leave, but Diddy chases them down, jumps on Cassie, and starts beating her behind. Well, Prince's security intervened and then told Diddy he had to leave. Okay? Because they probably were so shocked, like, who the hell's doing this at a party? I mean, specifically a party at Prince's house, no less. Okay, so they were like, hey, what are you doing? You got to go. How ignorant is that? Okay, so anyway, let me look for some more updates. This is from Court TV 32 minutes ago. I'm going to use an overlay because I don't need any copyright claims. Okay, here we go.
To New York. It is day 12 of the sex trafficking trial for Sean Diddy Combs. Here's what we can expect when court starts in about 1 hour. Deontay Nash, Cassie Ventura's close friend, who worked for Combs for 10 years, he returns to the stand for more cross-examination. During his testimony yesterday, he described the times he says he witnessed Combs be violent with Ventura. Here's part of his testimony where he's describing an alleged violent attack from Combs on Ventura. Because this is a federal trial, we have no audio or video coming from inside that courtroom. So this is an AI-generated voice from court transcripts.
Did you hear a knock at the door?
Yes,
What did you do in response?
I opened it.
Who did you see outside the apartment door?
Puff.
What did Mr. Combs say when you opened the apartment door for him?
Bitch, didn't I tell you to answer the phone?
Who did you understand he was speaking to when he said, bitch, didn't I tell you to answer the phone?
Cassie?
What did you see Mr. Combs do after he said that?
Grab her by the hair and pull her off of the couch and start hitting her?
When you say grab her by the hair, who did Mr. Combs grab by the hair?
Cassie?
And after Mr. Combs grabbed Cassie by the hair, what did he do next?
He began to hit her.
Could you tell whether it was with an open or closed fist?
Not really, no.
Could you tell how hard he was hitting her?
Objection. Overruled.
Could you tell how hard he was hitting her?
Pretty hard.
What was Mr. Combs saying as he pulled Cassie by the hair off the couch and hit her?
I just remember y'all going to stop with me.
What was Mr. Combs's tone and demeanor?
He was in a rage.
Where did you, Mia, and Cassie go after Mr. Combs? Immediately after Mr. Combs started hitting Cassie.
We ran to her bedroom.
To Cassie's bedroom?
Cassie's bedroom, yes.
Okay, so let me pause right there for a second. Because Charlotte Sam says white candles are used in rituals. This is absolutely true, but I'm just curious why Diddy specifically wanted the white candles, because when these candles are used in rituals, it's used specifically for purity, cleansing, protection, and spirituality. Okay, these candles are the ones that you use to remove negative energy. For anybody that follows the spiritual channel, I've already told you all this about all the different colors of candles and what they're used for. But why was he using white candles, honey? Because the negativity has never been removed from him. Okay, but let's keep listening.
What did you, Mia, and Cassie attempt to do in her bedroom?
Try to close the door.
What happened when you, Mia, and Cassie tried to close the bedroom door?
Puff pushed it open.
After Mr. Combs pushed the bedroom door open, what did you see him do next?
He continued to attack Cassie.
And how was he attacking Cassie?
With his fists and kicking her.
And what parts of Cassie's body did you see him kick and hit?
I mean, it was so fast.
But did you see him
Yes.
make contact with her body?
Yes, he made contact, yes.
What did you do to try to help Cassie?
I jumped on Puff's back.
How did Mr. Combs react when you jumped on his back?
He threw me off.
Where did you land?
First of all, Anita said it sounds like even the AI is scared. I know, like, why is it sounding so nefarious? Okay? Are y'all listening to this? Poetical Wind said this is a scary movie. Hope the Wayans remix this. Okay, this is all crazy, honey. Okay, let's keep listening.
And
On the floor.
were you injured?
I was a little sore.
What did Mia do to try to help Cassie?
Jump on his back as well.
When you say his back, whose back?
Puff.
How did Mr. Combs react when Mia jumped on Mr. Combs' back?
She was thrown off as well.
What did Mr. Combs do after throwing you and Mia off of his back?
Continued to hit Cassie until her head hit the edge of the bed frame.
What did you see happen after Cassie's head hit the edge of the bed frame?
He still continued to hit her for,
Hi, I'm Burke, a small business insurance expert from Byberg.
a short time. And when he noticed the blood, he just panicked.
So what blood did you see after Cassie's head hit the bed frame?
Blood coming from her head.
How much blood did you see coming from Cassie's head?
A lot.
And did Mr. Combs stop hitting Cassie immediately after her head hit the bed?
No.
For about how much longer did he continue to hit her as she was bleeding from the head?
Couple of seconds.
After that, at that point, were you still in the room?
Yes.
And where was Mia?
Getting towels.
And what were the towels for?
Cassie's head.
And where was Cassie?
She went into the second bathroom.
As you all were leaving the bedroom, what, if anything, did Mr. Combs say to you, Mia and Cassie?
Look what y'all made me do.
And how did you see her the next day?
FaceTime or something like that.
And when you saw her, what, if any, injuries did you see?
She had stitches on her forehead.
Okay, so I'm going to go to updates 2 minutes ago from CNN. Okay. Mia testified that on another occasion, Combs threw a computer at her head in his trailer on a music video set in Los Angeles. He was angry because the Wi-Fi didn't work. So that's her fault? Do y'all hear this? This idiot threw a computer at her head because he was mad because the Wi-Fi didn't work. When she returned to the trailer to relay that a production assistant said they were working on it, he cut her off. He cut me off and started screaming at me that, like, I shouldn't come back here until I figured out the Wi-Fi myself. Something like, I don't care if you have to call Bill Gates, and then chunked the computer at her head. It just missed her, okay? Recalling that she thought at that moment, wow, he meant to hit me. She ran out of the trailer and hid in the luggage van. Mia said the incidents she testified about were only some of the times Combs would throw things at her. She said when he threw things at her, she would often wonder if there was something wrong with me that I would make him so upset. No, honey, something wrong with him. He's a whole demon. Okay, that's what that is. Now from Inner City Press. So 6 minutes ago, AUSA says, and at Revolt TV, Mia says, he was using my phone and I didn't want him to see my message. Maybe I called him an asshole. I tried to get the phone back. He ran into the bathroom, then slammed the door on my arm repeatedly. Are y'all hearing this? AUSA said injuries. She says bruises. Honey, who would stay? Okay. AUSA says, did you see him later? Mia says at the studio, he told me that he sent all my compromising photos to him, to his phone. in case I had stuff on him, kind of like a bullying joke. AUSA says, how did you take it? I had no photos, so I knew he was lying. Diddy is a whole hot mess, y'all. This is absolutely nefarious, honey. This is some dirty work, but let's keep listening.
She had a gash on her forehead.
You just heard the name Mia. We are expecting this important government witness today. This woman who goes by the name Mia. She is a former assistant to Combs. In the opening statements, the federal prosecution said that Combs raped her. So after hearing all this damning testimony, we are asking, how can a friend witness abuse and still continue working for the alleged criminal? So it's an important question, and we want to bring in a guest to discuss this with us this hour. Entertainment commentator Holland Reed. Holland, thank you so much for being with us this morning. You know, you do hear people kind of talk about situations like this, and being inside the courtroom, we heard so much abuse that was taking place. It's very hard to listen to. You go home at the end of the night, and it's trying. It's trying on the soul. You see these videos. So, Holland, you have been to, I want to talk a little bit about the background. You've been to some events or a party with Sean Diddy Combs. Kind of talk about that, and maybe talk about the circles in being in there and how we're hearing witness after witness come to the stand and talk about witnessing this abuse, but then not leaving employment with him, not doing anything about it.
I want an app.
Every reason is the right reason to Orange Theory. Book your free class today.
Celebrate Zaxby's birthday with half-off handcrafted milkshakes. Who's got the sauce?
Zaxby's. Kelly, thank you so much for having me on this morning. Wow, this is super personal for me on so many levels. Yes, I was a dancer and an actress back in Los Angeles. I did a couple of award shows and was invited to these parties. Not those parties, but the general parties. I've never been to a freak off. I just want to make that very clear for my family and anyone that knows me. But in the same breath, when you are around that level of power and power dynamics, when you're looking at some of the heaviest hitters in the room, in the industry, music, television, entertainment, politics, it is very intimidating across the board. I want to say that it is also, people want to keep their jobs, and most people are really, they're self-serving in these scenarios. I was in an abusive situation that didn't necessarily manifest as bruises or being beat upside my head, but I was blackballed, blacklisted. I was told, lies were told on me. I was ostracized from friend groups.
Yeah, and that's why some of these people stayed, because Diddy was having them blackballed, blacklisted. Okay, think about how Capricorn left, couldn't find a job anywhere else. Everybody she went to would turn her down. She said, Jimmy, I even told her she better leave Puffy alone or it's going to turn out bad for her. So she couldn't get a job in the industry anywhere else. So she ended up going back to him. And, you know, that's probably how he wanted it to be.
Was ostracized from different agencies. So I know what abuse looks like when someone is not getting their way. And it doesn't always show up in the capacity or the extremities of Cassie's situation, but it's still abuse and it's still manipulation and power. What I can say is when you are dealing with anybody that has even an inkling of power, money, control, even just a little bit, and the person that I was dealing with just had a little tiny bit, but they can take that and run with it. And then it causes a catastrophe of a ripple effect for the people that are involved. And so that's how I know that friends can be silent. I've had plenty of friends still to this day who will never speak up on my behalf. I can't even imagine what Cassie's level of what she went through, and the people that knew they just wanted to stay in the industry. They wanted to have their jobs, their careers. And who were they going to go to? Who were they actually going to go to? He is Puff Daddy, Diddy, Love, Sean Combs. He was an empire. He is a machine. I've been saying that. This was not just one person. There was no one these people could go to. So either you leave the career or the industry, or you just become silent and stay loyal and hope for the best.
Holland, and it is a difficult situation. And you here, and there's different degrees. Obviously, you hear about the lifestyle that Cassie Ventura was having, the private planes traveling to Ibiza, South Africa, all over the world. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that glamorous or an extravagant of a lifestyle. It can just happen in a regular place of employment as well. You might see something, and then a lot of people might say, you know what, just keep your head down. You're getting a paycheck. You need the paycheck. Don't say anything. It's a really tough situation. But that said, when you're deciding the fate of a man in court, and jurors are listening to this, and they're hearing both sides. They're hearing witness after witness get up there and say, I saw this, but yet I didn't do anything. And defense counsel's picking up on that and say, well, you stayed. You called him again. After you saw that abuse or after he did this to you, you went back, you wanted to work with him still. Jurors have to decide if he's guilty of these crimes, and they're hearing these conflicting reports from the witnesses.
I will say this, Kelly. Deontay, the one thing that he did with his testimony is that he humanized the experience that Cassie went through. He did not make her paint her in a prettier picture. He was very much a part of the chaos. And so what he did was also show she was terrified for her life. She was scared for her friends and her family. She did want her career. She didn't know what to do. She was young. She was impressionable. She was gullible. She was also drugged on a regular basis, probably not in her right mind a lot of these times. And the power dynamic from a 22-year-old at that time, or whatever the years were, it was a big age gap of someone also in power, not just an age gap, but a power dynamic gap. And she was the one that was at his beck and call. She did not know better, but now she knows better. She's doing better. I would just like to say, this is a woman who just gave birth yesterday. She is in a rebirth period. I want to give her kudos. It takes a powerful woman that is changing her life to stand up on a stand, 8 months pregnant, still give birth, and still be cooperating with the FBI on one of the biggest trials of a century. So this is not a 22-year-old little girl we're dealing with anymore. We're dealing with a grown woman who is dealing with her own reckoning and also the reckoning of an entire industry and empire.
Good point, Helen. And it was amazing to watch her testimony and how she was able to sit there in the witness box and answer questions on cross-examination that were not easy, talking about her personal life, going through that binder of men that she had to flip through, being asked to name them. And these were men that she participated in the freak-offs with. I mean, just watching her flip through these binders and her reliving it. But she held up extremely well on the stand. It was quite remarkable to watch. Helen, thank you. You are sticking around with us this morning, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So you think you know.
Okay, so now the court has taken a short break. They've taken a short break for a few minutes. So with that all being said, let me see what else I can find while they're on the break. Assistant U.S. Attorney Madison Smizer said she won't finish the direct examination of Maya today and will have to finish Friday morning. Okay, so she said she's not going to finish it today. She's going to have to finish it in the morning. So that means no cross-examination of the witness today either. Okay, anyway, that was from CNN. Inner City Press says, let's see here. AUSA says, who is Matt? Mia said, that's Puff's engineer. At one point we dated. And then AUSA says, I have more. And then it stops. Okay, so I guess they'll continue after the break. That all being said, I'm going to look for some more information.
Lights shining down in the moonlight, girl, can't help but feel this connection flow with every move. Go along the floor when you smile, makes me want more. Heartbeat and sing, and the sound of soul. Tonight we dance, just lose control. I can't resist.
Okay, so I'm going to go to this TMZ report from about an hour ago.
They had what they felt is the prosecutors were insinuating Diddy somehow had something to do with the destruction.
Which is sort of like losing the Cassie video in 2016 at the Intercontinental.
Yes. Yes.
There's two big issues with presenting this kind of testimony to the jury. One, they might think you're trying to draw a connection where you have none. You have one set of fingerprints and you're testifying about another set of fingerprints that you can't actually connect. The other problem is this had only happened around 8 months before that evidence was destroyed. So it plants the seed, according to Diddy's defense team, that Diddy was somehow behind the destruction of evidence, maybe paid off an LAPD official. And you remember during the jury selection process, a lot of people said that they thought Diddy was a rich and powerful person who could make things go away.
Yeah, and the defense is saying the prosecution is playing into that conspiracy theory that maybe is already out there in the jury pool.
Yeah, but there's no evidence that Diddy paid anybody off or anything.
No,
which is their
make
point.
them sort of prejudice against Diddy, just the mere thought in front of them. It's hard to unring the bell.
Just seems like a small, insignificant thing that the defense is saying.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's insignificant.
No, because clearly people think that. I mean,
the
there's
rule for the prosecution in this is like a nothing thing.
Yeah, well, you're right that the judge just said, "Hey, jurors, don't listen to that testimony." Struck the testimony, but didn't declare a mistrial.
Let's hold on. Get real for a second. What the prosecution is saying or insinuating, according to the defense, is Diddy knew those fingerprints were going to incriminate him via some associate and connect him to the arson and then the burglary.
And by the way, there was also testimony from an LAPD officer that the car, they had a photo and they saw the car that was, or an SUV that was parked in front of the house led back to, it was owned by Bad Boy. So again,
but that's at least hard evidence. But the insinuation is that Diddy destroyed the fingerprint because it incriminated him in the arson and connected him to the burglary.
I have a very important question.
It's an
I have a very important question.
There's reasonable doubt here.
It is an insinuation, but here's my question. Did the LAPD officer offer any explanation why evidence from an investigation that was less than a year old, that was at that point
was
7, 8 months, why was it destroyed? Now, I'm not insinuating anything, but if I'm on the jury, I want to know why was it destroyed?
But let me tell you, they watch CS.
Point, though, Charles. It's a great point, because why was evidence that's so fresh destroyed? This isn't a cold case from 25 years ago where you're clearing out the decks for new evidence coming in. This is a very fresh case.
Yeah, the arson investigator who mentioned that they were destroyed, he said it was strange that they were. He would have needed to sign off on something like that, and somebody went around him and did this.
So when was it? What year? This is important. What year was it destroyed? And what year was the? And what year was the arson?
The arson was
in January of 2012, and the burglary was December of 2011. So
okay,
about 8 months.
So here's the thing, and people in the jury watch CSI. The statute of limitations had not run.
This is very true.
The statute of limitations had not run. Why would they destroy evidence when it's still a live case that can be prosecuted if they get more evidence, especially when it involves a celebrity as big as Diddy? Why would something that critical
Why do
be
I
destroyed?
feel like, as you're speaking right now, you are making the defense's case for a mistrial?
Never sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid a way bigger check without having to go to.
I'm saying that it's powerful.
Yeah, it is very powerful. I don't.
So who destroyed it and why?
Well, by the way, the bottom line here is the judge refused to declare a mistrial. There was no mistrial, but the judge did do something that I always think is interesting in a trial. The judge said that the jury gave them instructions they cannot consider any of the testimony about the fingerprints, either at the burglary or at the fire.
That's the biggest crock of all.
So so the jury is going to act like
The biggest crock of all trials is telling the jury, don't listen to something you just heard, and, but just remember it, expunge it from your brain. It's not practical, but it's something the judge has to do.
Plus, the defense made such a big stink about it that you got to think, oh, why are they raising this?
Exactly. It makes it even
worse.
worse.
Something must have happened. They got rabble.
People's brains are not like an Etch-a-Sketch. And the reality here is that on appeal, this could come up because, look, and look, I think it is interesting. Why was it destroyed? Because, look, a lot of people are going to say that Diddy also destroyed the original video at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016. So if he's capable of doing that, did he destroy the fingerprint, or did he pay somebody off, to destroy the fingerprint in 2011 or 12? And, look, there's no proof that happened, but how does the jury not to? How does the jury not? Leap? That's right.
They knew what they were doing, and absolutely, Diddy 9 times out of 10 absolutely paid somebody to get rid of those prints. Okay, so this is from less than a minute ago from CNN. Just before the break, the former assistant of Sean Diddy Combs recounted a time that she says he grabbed her phone and ran off, injuring her as she tried to grab the device back, and later threatening to use anything incriminating that he found. The ex-employee, testifying under the pseudonym Mia, said that she was with Combs at his Revolt Media Productions office when he borrowed her phone to make a call and then ran off with it rather than handing it back. Mia said she was scared her boss would see a text to his stylist where she had badmouthed him. She chased after the music mogul, who slammed her arm in a bathroom door multiple times when she tried to follow him. He eventually ran into the street outside. This is all crazy. Diddy's acting like a madman, like an entire maniac. Okay? Now it says he eventually ran into the street outside and left, leaving Mia with a badly bruised arm that she thought might have been broken. When she saw Combs later that day, he told her, I wouldn't want someone going through my phone if I had what you had, and I wouldn't want someone going through my phone if I had what you had in there either. I sent all of your compromising or inappropriate photos to my phone so that I got something on you, just in case you got something on me. Okay, this is what he told her, adding that she was relieved to know she didn't actually have anything compromising on the device. Now, the jury saw emails that Mia sent to other staff members after the incident where she asked for someone to pick her up because she was stranded without her phone. When asked what happened, Mia said in the emails it was an in-person story. She testified in court today that the comment was a reference to never putting stories involving violence into an email. Yeah, because she knew better, honey, because Diddy is a whole fool. Okay, so nothing yet from Inner City Press. I guess they're back from the break.
Bring it up on appeal if you don't know what the answer is.
No, you bring up the prejudice to their client.
Yeah,
what
that's
you
exactly
do is you preserved
right.
it for appeal, and you say the judge overruled me, didn't declare a mistrial. That was an error, and now they have grounds for appeal.
Okay, I want you all to pay attention because this is all stuff that I've already told you all. Like, they're absolutely setting the stage for an appeal. Okay, that's why they're making all these points, filing all these complaints, asking the judge, about certain things that is problematic for them. Because they know at this point, the defense that is, I'm sure they know at this point that they have lost. I'm sure they know at this point that Diddy is just going to be convicted. So now all they can do out of desperation is try to come up with a myriad of things that they can use on appeal. And them calling for that mistrial yesterday, they knew that the judge was not going to grant it, but they called for it anyway so they can have that further as evidence for the appeal, okay, later on. Okay, just like they're saying. I told you all this already, but let's keep listening.
I'd be interested to see if he loses and gets convicted, what they do with this.
I'm Brooke. I'm from the UK. I think the defense team is just scrambling. I think it's clearly obvious, Diddy is a powerful man. It's within his power to get these things done behind the scenes. People have known about him for years. There's been rumors for years. I'm not even in the country and I've known there's rumors about this man for years. I think he's clearly guilty. We've seen it. The public knows it. Let's just get justice done and get justice for these women, please.
Well, there's something called a trial, right? And you kind of want to go through the trial
Skip all that.
before you're guilty. Yeah, you don't want to skip over the trial part.
That's not how it works in this country, or even in yours.
We have sort of trial-related news.
Yes. Good news for Cassie. We broke the story yesterday that she was in a hospital in the labor unit, and what's supposed to happen in a labor unit happened. She had the baby, her third child, with Alex Fine, and the baby was born sometime Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon. And we're told that although the baby arrived slightly early, maybe like within days, mom and child are doing just fine. We do not know the gender yet.
Do not know the gender.
You know, she was the star witness in this Diddy case just a couple weeks ago. And even a judge had noticed that she was ready to pop. And he noted that they were going to limit her testimony because they were concerned she was going to be giving birth any day. So at least baby is here, baby is healthy, and all is well.
I know choosing the right policy can seem like a lot of work. With Byberg Small Business Insurance, you can save up to 20%.
Okay, we are going to move on.
Yes, staying in New York City, though, where this is it, all right? The Obama rumors have persisted no matter what. They're fine, and now we have finally seen them
saw
together.
them before.
By the way, this is, I should say, I've seen, I think even on our site, we said reunion.
Well, breaking news now at noon in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs, one of the music mogul's alleged victims. Is taking the stand as a witness. Let's get right out to Fox 5's Lisa Evers, live in Lower Manhattan with the very latest from inside of the courtroom. Lisa, what has the jury heard so far today?
Some shocking allegations already, Bianca. And this personal assistant to Diddy was here on the stand this morning amid unusual privacy and security concerns. Identified only as Mia, she began to tell the story of her nightmare, a nightmare that she says she could not escape. Now, this morning, the sons of Sean Combs, Quincy, Justin, and Christian, also known as King Combs, made their way into federal court in a continuing show of support that began months ago during their father's pretrial hearings. This morning in the 26th floor courtroom, a woman identified only as Mia began her testimony about her time working as Combs' assistant. She said on her very first day she was not allowed to sleep for 24 hours, but went along with it because she thought it might be some kind of test, but explained things only got worse from there, that she was constantly cursed at and humiliated and not allowed to leave his homes where she was working and living without his permission. Once she said she did leave at night, he allegedly sent a security team to find her and bring her back. Now, this is just the beginning, and clearly we'll be hearing a lot more about the alleged abuse she says she suffered at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs later on this afternoon. Now, as many people know, no cameras or phones, even with cameras, are allowed inside federal courtrooms, so we rely on sketches to bring you these stories. But today, the judge made an unusual order telling the sketch artist that they could not draw her or any type of image for her in order to protect her privacy and her security. We're live at federal court. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News. Bianca, back to you.
All right, Lisa, thank you for the update on that.
New York City, we are monitoring testimony in federal court in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial. On the stand now is a woman who's going by the name Mia.
Okay, that's court TV, so let me put up an overlay.
Yeah, and we have a live update from our own Scripps News reporter, Alex Miller, who has been inside of that courtroom and courthouse and now outside. Alex, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Tell me what the key moments are. What is Mia saying on the stand?
Well, Mia is on the stand. She's been on the stand since late morning, and she's likely to be on the stand through Friday. Prosecutors are utilizing her in part to prop up their argument that Sean Combs essentially abused his employees. And though she was only his personal assistant for about a year, she described it as chaotic and toxic. She said the highs were really high and the lows were incredibly low, and it was an incredibly high-pressure work environment. And in fact, she was rarely home. Her friends called her a ghost because she was always with Sean Combs. She worked 24 hours straight her first day on the job. She thought maybe that this was a bit of a test, but it turns out that that was a regular occurrence. One time she worked 5 days straight without sleep. She said she had to utilize Adderall in order to be able to do so. She said Combs really was in charge of her life. When she stayed with him at his house, she was not allowed to lock her bedroom door, and that goes to one of her allegations. She has alleged on the stand that Sean Combs sexually assaulted her on more than one occasion. She also said he physically abused her by throwing things at her. She said he once threw her in a pool, dumped a bucket of ice on her, and that was a regular part of her day-to-day life as his employee, at least as his personal assistant. She later worked for him in a different capacity, but she's also one of Cassie Ventura's very best friends, was and still is. And she was able to testify to the amount of control that Diddy had over Cassie as well, saying that Mia was to text Diddy photos of the hair, nails, clothing that Cassie wanted to wear, and that Diddy had to approve it before she was able to do so. That he had control over their friendship, that she wasn't allowed to do anything with Cassie, leave his house without the approval. And if he didn't approve, there was a punishment, not only physical abuse, but he'd take away her car, take away certain jewelry, things of that nature as well. She said that the punishment essentially was typically unpredictable, but typically pretty terrifying. And then lastly, just before lunch, she described that scene that we heard Cassie describe and Deontay Nash when Cassie was beat up in her bedroom by Diddy in front of both Nash and Mia to the point where she was bleeding from her head. She described that situation as incredibly terrifying, saying that she tried to get Diddy to stop, but he wouldn't. She says his eyes turned black and that he was essentially looking right through her. She says those are the moments where she really knew that not only Cassie was in incredible danger, but that he was as well, that she was as well.
Alex, you are just sharing these harrowing details, and though we don't have those cameras, we can imagine what it's like inside of that courtroom with Mia on the stand. This was slated to be an 8-week trial, so it would end sometime in July. We're hearing that it may be sooner that things are wrapping up. What are you hearing there on the ground?
Yeah, we are hearing that it might wrap up sooner. They are trying to keep things incredibly on schedule or ahead of schedule, despite the fact that we didn't have court on Friday or Monday because of the Memorial Day holiday. We are now hearing that they might be able to wrap up the prosecution's case within the first 2 weeks of June.
Okay, so they're back from the quick break that they took, according to CNN. They've no further updates, but Inner City Press says from 1 minute ago or from 2 minutes ago, they say they're back. AUSA says the sexual assaults. When did these occur? Mia says, when I was working for Puff. AUSA says, where was the first time? She says the Plaza Hotel in New York for Puff's 40th birthday. AUSA says, were you his personal assistant? She says, yes, I'd been there only a few months. Okay, then AUSA says, what rooms did Mr. Combs rent out? She says, the penthouse, party guests and celebrities there. AUSA says, what did Mr. Combs do? She says, he asked to speak to me in the kitchen. What did he do? She says he had everyone else clear the room. Okay, so that's what they have for now.
The trial was initially slated to go until just before the 4th of July holiday, but if they are to be able to wrap up within the first 2 weeks of June, we're expecting the defense to take about a week or so. So it looks like they could be a week or two ahead of schedule.
Miller, thank you for the very latest there in New York City. Let's turn our attention to our guests who are standing by and see what they think about where we are in the Diddy trial. Criminal defense attorney Jessica Lettingham and former deputy public defender for LA County, Philip Dubé. Jessica, let me start with you. We've got Mia on the stand. That's the name that she's going by. She's actually in the indictment in this case. So basically, it's Cassie Ventura and Mia who are named. Talk about whether the allegations that you're hearing, whether that equals racketeering and sex.
Okay, the allegations do equal racketeering and trafficking, in my opinion. Diddy's just going down. Okay, so now here's another update from CNN less than a minute ago. Mia said that one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants testified that he actually assaulted her on multiple occasions while she worked for him. She also said that Cassie Ventura was not present when these assaults occurred and that she never told her about them. Her voice dropped to nearly a whisper when she confirmed that Combs assaulted her and said it happened sporadically throughout her employment with him. Honey, it's time to go. What you're not going to be doing is forcing yourself on me, and I'm going to still work there. This is all so nefarious. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to the video.
trafficking.
Yeah, she has been a witness from the beginning that I have been really wanting to see. I think yesterday was a major turning point for the prosecution. We finally saw some real trafficking.
Okay, this just in from Inner City Press. Remember, the last thing they were saying on Inner City Press was that Diddy would assault her. He told her to go into the kitchen. They needed to talk, and he had everyone else clear the room. Now AUSA says, what did he say? Mia says that we were going to be working closer together. He poured us 2 shots of vodka, each for his birthday. AUSA said, what did you do with the shot? I took them, she says. They hit me hard. Usually I could take it easily. Okay, then Mia said, my eyes couldn't focus. His face was close. He put his arm up the side of my dress and he kissed me. AUSA says, did you want him to? She says, no. Were you able to say no? She says, I was shocked. I froze. I didn't process what was happening. Honey, what was in that drink is what I want to know. Okay, so that's it for now.
Trafficking evidence when the assistant, the makeup artist, one of Cassie's friends said, yeah, I saw Diddy say that he was making her do this freak off on her 29th birthday. We finally got the forcing. Now with Mia, we will also finally see some forcing of the sex. And so we're finally getting there with the sex trafficking. The racketeering, trafficking is one of the predicate offenses, one of the 2 predicate offenses. So it may get us there, but they're not there yet with the racketeering charge.
Okay, Jessica, you brought up Deontay Nash's testimony, that stylist. It really was powerful. We have a clip. It's AI generated from the details inside of that courtroom in our notes, but let's take a listen to what he described in that moment about that alleged force and potential blackmail.
I feel like the first 2 days of my period is a rager in my uterus. She angry. But when I take my Midol Complete, I'm good to go.
What conversations, if any, do you remember having with Mr. Combs ahead of Cassie's 29th birthday?
Should he surprise her for her birthday?
Is that what he asked you?
Okay, here they go again with this creepy AI. Now, for those of you who don't know, who missed it when I broke down exactly what a RICO is and how they determine a RICO, if you don't know what predicate crimes are, those are basically crimes or offenses that are a component of a much larger crime. Okay, the larger crime being racketeering, money laundering, financing of terrorism, etc. Okay, so Diddy has already met the burden for that, because at the end of the day, I mean, the prosecution has already met their burden of proof for that, as far as I'm concerned, because they've named, I mean, he has already, according to testimonies, committed several of the predicate acts when they only need 2. Okay, so Diddy is just going down, honey. It's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yes.
How did you respond?
I told him if you want to.
Now, why did you tell Mr. Combs to come if he wanted to, if you'd seen him do all of this violence to Cassie?
Girl, I was not about to tell him. He couldn't come give that girl a party.
What do you remember happening at the birthday party there?
As they were leaving, Puff was telling Cassie, you, I do all this. I'll do everything for you, and you just can't do this one thing for me.
Did you end up speaking with Cassie at the Cavatina about Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Were you 2 alone?
It was a couple people around.
What do you remember Cassie saying to you at the Cavatina?
I asked her about Puff. I was like, girl, what is he over there doing? What is he talking about? And Cassie said, girl, he's just mad because I don't want to go to the hotel and freak off with him.
Deontay Nash also testified about videos of the freak-offs and Cassie being worried that they would be leaked. Philip Dubé, are we getting there with racketeering, in your opinion?
Not even close. Honestly, I know I'm going out on a limb here, but really what we're seeing is an end run around the state statute of limitations periods for domestic violence and maybe pimping and pandering. The statute of limitations, I believe, out here is 4 years. So any assault on Cassie would have had to have been brought many years ago. The pimping and pandering, I think, is an 8-year statute. So what's the problem? The problem is they can't get him stateside. So what do? You resort to plan B and you go federal. And they're using these creative avenues to try to get him under a trafficking, a RICO theory, or transportation for prostitution. And I think it's falling short, but we're still in the infancy stages of the case. And I'm anxious to hear what, if anything, they have next, because right now what I'm not seeing is all these predicate acts occurring in the ordinary course of the Combs enterprise, as opposed to just isolated instances of violence against Cassie. And certainly it's not to trivialize what happened to the young lady. I just don't think it's properly charged under RICO, the Mann Act, and transportation for prostitution.
And Philip, a follow-up for you, since you're there in LA County and a lot of these alleged incidents happened there. We've got Mia on the stand talking about just horrible things as an employee for Combs. And she alleges violence as well, that he threw her into a pool, that he put ice on her, that he grabbed her a lot. Forced labor is what it is called in the indictment. Is this something, I don't want to say is common, but sometimes we do have people coming out about their celebrity bosses saying what a terror they were. Do you think that this should be added to the racketeering case in the way that we've heard it?
Well, if you think about it, what would they be adding? It would just be a form of aggravated assault, which I guess is one of the predicate offenses. And I guess in theory they could. I think the defense would cry foul for alleging this type of late amendment, but certainly they could foresee it because they've received all the discovery. You know, the problem that the defense has when you cut through it all, Julia, is that they don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt each predicate act. In fact, the jury doesn't even have to reach unanimity as to each predicate act. The jury can just look at all the behavior in its totality and say, yeah, they've satisfied predicate acts sort of in the abstract and get the guy. I just am fundamentally opposed to it, and I'm not sure it rises to that level yet. We're getting there, though, but right now we're still riding the train.
Alex Miller told us they've got about 2 more weeks of prosecution witnesses. We will continue to keep everyone updated on what happens.
My granddaughter calls it my revenge bod.
Mama needs me time.
I love data.
I like motivating people.
I like being told what to do.
All the smoke in front of y'all, though.
Capricorn Clark leaves court after testifying against her one-time boss, Sean Combs, after detailing how she claimed she was kidnapped, threatened with murder, and witnessed beatings of Cassie Ventura. I go through 13 explosive moments from Clark's testimony and how Combs' longtime rival Suge Knight and later 50 Cent and Jay-Z came up. Guns. And when he said that, guns.
I'm going to stop there because we've heard enough of Capricorn's testimony thus far. Okay, so let me see if we have any updates here. 3 minutes ago from Inner City Press, AUSA says, were there other times that he made you feel uncomfortable, Essie, actually? Mia says, yes, I had to carry bags to his room. Downstairs was Uncle Paulie. AUSA says, what did he say to you? Brian still objects. The judge says grounds, still then says hearsay. AUSA says for the effect, overruled. Okay, so the judge overruled it. Okay, then Mia says, I brought the bags. He asked me to pull up something on his computer. He came and sat next to me, leaned over me as if to put his face in the computer like it was an uncomfortable way. AUSA says, how do you feel? She said, I pretended I had to go to the bathroom. First of all, she should have known Diddy was going to be doing the most, because when she first came for the interview or first came to meet him, she said that he was in his underwear when he answered the door for her and the HR person. So she should have known he was going to be up to something no good, honey. I just couldn't do it. At the end of the day, I would have had to just decline. Okay, so anyway, that's all they have for now on Inner City Press. Nothing yet from CNN. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything noteworthy thus far. Hold on. Those inmates in New Orleans, remember they caught about 5 of them, and then still 5 more were still missing? I think they're still evading the police. Let me see if I can go to a current update about this while we're waiting on Diddy updates.
With us today, we have a very important announcement, I believe, that may assist in the apprehension of the 2 last remaining at-large inmates. I do want to say a great thank you to the partnering agencies that have worked endlessly to make this arrest happen of the first 8. And we have with us today, of course, State Police, ATF, U.S. Marshals, FBI, LSP, of course, and Homeland Security and NOPD. So as Crime Stoppers, we have been, an active participant in gathering information for many years in the New Orleans area and in the surrounding parishes, actually for about 45 years. And this is a job that we take very seriously. And we also understand the sensitivity when someone reports someone that they know personally with regards to a crime. And since the escape, Crime Stoppers has fielded close to 700 tips with regards to the information on the 10 inmates. We actually, at the peak of this, had to add 4 additional lines to accommodate the calls to the call center, the Crime Stoppers call center. And I want you to know that we vetted every single tip, prioritized them for the delivery to our lead agency, Louisiana State Police, and the other agency partners that stand with us. We know that we have been told tips assisted in 3 arrests of inmates. In the first tip that came in that led to an arrest, actually the incredible work by this team, that arrest came within 30 minutes of the tip. I can tell you that 3 tipsters will be paid rewards. And again, it's by the work that's been confirmed from the information the community provides from law enforcement. I can't thank enough the LSP Fusion Center, the individuals who we work with, the call takers, who we passed every single tip by. I also can't thank enough my staff and our call center for keeping staying the course.
Ba-bum.
At Byberg Small Business Insurance, we cover all kinds of small businesses.
Okay, so an update from CNN from less than a minute ago. While Mia continues her testimony about her experience as Sean Diddy Combs' assistant, the prosecution may still have a steep hill to climb in proving that Combs was running a criminal enterprise. This is according to trial consultant and author Richard Gabriel. He says the racketeering charge in particular is challenging because the testimony speaks to individual conduct. Typically, racketeering involves lots and lots of incidents, lots of people, but they're talking about a couple of people, and they're talking about a lot of abuse. So I think jurors could view this as just a lot of horrible behavior, individual abuse, and even potentially criminal behavior. But if it adds up to some sort of concerted enterprise, I think that it's the steepest hill to climb. The defense may also argue that these witnesses, including Mia, are participating in Combs' life because of the celebrity lifestyle that comes with being in his orbit. I think that the defense is probably going to come back and say, look, A lot of these people are participating partly because of the promise of this lifestyle. And that's what's luring these people into this behavior, because they hope to get something from Diddy's notoriety, from his celebrity. And they're hoping to kind of ride that train. It's that individual choice prompted by the celebrity lifestyle that is keeping these witnesses involved. Gabriel said the defense may say, as opposed to really them being coerced into the behavior that they didn't want to do. Okay, here's the thing though. See why this is all kind of crazy? Because when you think about a real criminal enterprise, like when Mike Franzese was on that show this morning, News Nation, and he talked about when he was in the mafia and all that stuff. The thing is, these people are usually in the mob because they're all part of the crime family, because they know they're going to be committing crimes. They're there to commit crimes. They're complicit in it, and they have no problem. They made a conscious decision to work with a criminal enterprise. The people that Diddy hired, these people did not willingly come there and seek employment with him knowing that this was a criminal enterprise or thinking that they were going to be asked to do anything criminal. So I have to agree with this analyst who says that they were working with Diddy and they stayed there because of his notoriety and his celebrity. And also, like I said earlier, because they were getting blacklisted when they tried to leave. So Diddy held the keys, okay, to their financial status and all of this. Now, with that all being said, is the jury going to see this as these people were actually running or working with Diddy to run a criminal organization? Because, you know, by the definition that the feds are using for their RICO, well, we could say it's a criminal enterprise, but is the jury going to say it that way? Because to me, the feds are kind of reaching, okay? They're kind of reaching. And then notice this is the second time someone has said that it has to be a myriad of bad acts, a myriad of this type of behavior, like a pattern. But in my opinion, they've already established a pattern because you've had 4 or 5 people already testify saying the exact same things. Okay, so we're just going to have, this is all going to be based on how the jury views the information that is being given in court and how much of they understand the instructions when they're sent to deliberate. Okay, and I think it may be kind of confusing for them. That's what I think. Okay, so now I'm going to go to a couple of updates. Okay, this from 3 minutes ago, CNN. The former assistant testifying in Sean Diddy Combs' S trafficking trial told the court that the first time Combs S assaulted her, they were at a hotel in New York for his 40th birthday. The woman who's testifying under the pseudonym of Mia had been working for Combs for a few months. He asked to speak with her, and the two of them went to the kitchen where he told her that he was going, or that she was doing a good job and didn't need to be nervous about coming to him with questions. He then offered her 2 shots. The former assistant says that she remembers wondering if she'd eaten enough beforehand, but the shots hit me kind of hard, or because the shots hit me kind of hard. She was shocked when Combs then leaned in to kiss her against her will. I was shocked and I froze. I couldn't even process what was happening. The next thing Mia remembers clearly is sitting in a chair in the main room in the penthouse as the sun came up. She said she thought it would never happen again, that her boss had just been drunk and that it was probably a huge accident. She planned not to tell anyone. Okay, so 3 minutes ago, she testified the next time that Sean Diddy Combs made her feel uncomfortable, actually following the incident at his 40th birthday party, was at his New York apartment. She said she didn't remember the exact date, but said that she was still relatively new at her job. Okay, she said she was bringing him bags to his apartment, and his security said something along the lines of, "I've seen this before." When she got inside, Mia said Combs asked her to look up something on the computer, and then he sat next to her. She said Combs leaned over her and got very close. She said her internal alarm bells went off. I felt really uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to behave. Mia said that she asked to go to the bathroom, and when she came out, she left the apartment. Not a moment too soon, okay? Not a moment too soon. Now, let me see if they have anything from Inner City Press. Okay. Inner City Press from 9 minutes ago. AUSA says, where were you the next time Mr. Combs' Essie actually assaulted you? She says, the Beverly Grove house. I was asleep on the bottom bunk. I wasn't allowed to lock the door. I woke up. There was a weight of a person on me. AUSA says, who? She says, Puff. She says, it was so fast. He used one hand to get his pants undone. He put himself inside of me. AUSA says, you mean his peen inside of you? She says, I just froze. AUSA says, how did you feel? She says, terrified and confused and ashamed and scared. Okay, AUSA says, how long? She says, very quick. Okay, this is all so crazy. I want y'all to pay attention. Then she says, but it felt like forever, but he wouldn't leave a job unfinished. AUSA says, is that when it would end? She says, yes. AUSA says, the next time. She says, the Beverly Crest house. I was on his bedroom or in his bedroom closet floor. No, she says, I was on his bedroom closet floor putting things in a bag. Then Puff was in the closet. She says he had his peen out and he grabbed my head and put it in. AUSA says, Mr. Combs took his peen out and put it in your mouth? She says, yes, I was frozen. I didn't do anything. And then she starts crying. AUSA says, how did you feel? She says, like trash, scared and ashamed. Oh, honey. You didn't leave after that, honey, because I would have been gone so quick. Okay, but you know, all the terrifying things that Diddy would threaten people with. This is all so sad. Retired federal officer Carol Banks says she should have reported that immediately as it happened, and she should have disregarded any consequences or reprisal. Either you stand up for something or you stand up for nothing or a defense of self. Okay, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right, beloved. Honey, there's only so much I could take. I mean, doing all of this is horrendous. Oh, Diddy is a devil.
We know that tips from the public plays an incredible role. And we also appreciate that we have the trust coming to Crime Stoppers for those tips. But our work is not done. With 2 remaining inmates, our board, our organization, wanted to stand firm and encourage anyone who might have intimate knowledge of the whereabouts of Mr. Massey or Mr. Groves not to wait, but to contact us immediately. To kind of put a little meat behind that, we wanted to let you know that Crime Stoppers today has increased its reward for information that leads directly to the arrest of each of these individuals, up to $20,000. Now, with Crime Stoppers, we are combining with the ATF, making the reward significantly higher. And you're eligible for the Crime Stoppers reward by contacting us directly. With Crime Stoppers, you're going to remain anonymous. It's our standard protocols. And we truly hope that with this increased amount, if you have personal knowledge of the whereabouts of these individuals that can help law enforcement make that arrest, to contact us. And again, we can't say it enough, with Crime Stoppers, you will remain anonymous. Now, I'd like to have the ATF speak up.
All right, thank you. Hey, good morning. My name is Joshua Jackson. I am the special agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. As New Orleans has heard me said in other communities in Louisiana, ATF's priority mission is to prevent, reduce, and solve violent crime. In this particular response, this is preventing additional violent crime from happening to our citizens in our community. The 10 escapees definitely had violent criminal histories, and they definitely were it had a lot of impact on public safety within the communities that we serve. I want to pull the curtain back a little bit and kind of give some acknowledgments and some thank yous to our partners. First, LSP leading this investigation. Colonel Hodges has been instrumental in coordinating efforts and keeping all of the federal partners and local partners engaged and aware and appraised of what's going on. This investigation has stretched beyond the borders of Louisiana. Also want to give a lot of acknowledgement to our federal partners, and that's FBI, United States Marshal Service, and HSI.
3 signs your car accident is worth major compensation. If you've been in a car accident recently,
HSI, NOPD, and ATF, we have a task force that works in the city. You guys might recall when we did a press conference speaking about the crime drop, the violent crime decreases within the city of New Orleans. And we talked about this task force. This task force is led by New Orleans Police Department, Special Operations Division, Tactical Team 2, ATF, and Homeland Security Investigations. This team has been instrumental in this response. This task force is the one that comes out, and they do investigate violent crime in all capacities, to include this fugitive apprehension. They've been instrumental in conducting search warrants, interviews that have directly led to the arrest and capture of some of these escapees. The last acknowledgement and thank you I want to give to the public and the community at large. You guys have been instrumental in providing tips and working with us to help keep you safe. We're not at the finish line. We still have 2 more to go that we need to capture and bring back and put back in custody, as they do pose a risk to public safety to all of us in the community. I also want to reiterate to
I hope they hurry up and catch these thugs, okay? Gwendolyn says, keep speaking your truth. I love you. And I love you too, beloved. Thank you so much for your kind words and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so here are a couple of more updates. This is from less than a minute ago from CNN. So they say Mia is now testifying about an occasion in 2009 or 10 where she saw Sean Diddy Combs, or where she says Sean Diddy Combs raped her. The former assistant said she was asleep in Combs' Los Angeles home when he climbed on top of her. She said she was sleeping with the door unlocked because she wasn't allowed to lock it. See, remember, she said nobody could lock the doors except for his security. Okay. Now, someone asked, did I see, Chanda says, did you see what TMZ said about Meg and Tory? If they said something today, I haven't seen it. I've been focused on Diddy today. Okay, now, so goes on to say, Mia testified that she was woken up by the weight of a person on top of her. It was Combs. She said Combs told her to be quiet and used one of his hands to get his pants off. After a pause, she said he put himself inside. She said, I just froze. I didn't react. When asked how she felt, Mia said that she was terrified and confused and ashamed and scared. It was very quick, but it felt like forever. Okay, she was audibly emotional and sniffing. Mia went on to recount another time that she said Combs assaulted her at his home in Los Angeles. She said she was on the floor in his closet packing a bag when he assaulted her, saying that she felt like trash, and added that she felt scared and ashamed and like an idiot. Ooh, honey. Okay, now Inner City Press. Okay, so Inner City Press says, 7 minutes ago, they say AUSA says, how long did it last? Mia said it was very fast. AUSA says, were there any other sexual assaults? She said, yes. I have a dark feeling. One time we were flying on a private jet. Okay, everyone was asleep. By the bathroom, there was a bed. I went by and he was standing right there. She says, I tried to make it about other people who might see or hear. It didn't work. AUSA says, how did you feel? She said, helpless. I had lost some layer of protection. I wasn't safe, terrified. AUSA says, do you remember what happened? She says, no. So, honey, he was willing to do this stuff even when other people were present, honey. He gave 0 Fs. Okay, Diddy is sick in the head, honey. He's getting exactly what he deserves.
Firearm owners. We want to make sure that this is already a dangerous situation. We want to make sure that firearms are secured in your vehicles. We don't want any handguns, rifles that are unsecured coming into the hands of these two individuals who are still outstanding. Also be vigilant in your home. Make sure your firearms are secured throughout the area until we get these 2 individuals back into custody. So thank you to New Orleans and the greater Louisiana area for your assistance and your help with this investigation. I'm going to turn it over to Chief of the United States Marshals.
Yes, you definitely, if you're in the area where there are escaped inmates, the last thing you need to do is leave weapons in your vehicle, okay, where somebody can just break in there and take them, because you know that's what they're going to be looking for. So definitely stuff like that has to be locked up, okay, put under lock and key, because that's the last thing we need is for them running around here. And these people, some of them are murderers, okay? Please pay attention. They have nothing to lose.
Good morning. I'm Walter Martin. I'm the Chief Deputy with the U.S. Marshals here in New Orleans. I want to start by thanking several groups. I first want to thank Darlene and Crime Stoppers, GNO, for not only increasing the reward, but for also our partnership and everything that they've done behind the scenes to assist not only the U.S. Marshals, but my law enforcement partners that are standing here. And their support with the community has been phenomenal. I would also like to thank the men and women you see standing here with me today, but more importantly, the men and women that are behind the scenes working hard every day. Ever since the escape occurred, they have been tirelessly working, dedicating their time and giving up, sacrificing their personal and professional time to work on finding these escapees. I also want to thank the public for their support, not only of law enforcement, but for providing the tips and the information that is needed to find the escapees. More importantly, I would like to echo what Colonel Hodges has been telling you guys from the start, as well as what our leaders have been saying, that we need the community support. Continue to provide the tips, send them to Crime Stoppers, send them to the ATF, to the FBI, to the Marshal Service. We are vetting those tips and we're using that information to catch the individuals. As you have seen thus far, we've captured 8 of them and we plan on catching the remaining 2. If you know something, say something. Please contact Crime Stoppers, ATF, the Marshal Service, FBI, and thank you for your support. Now I'd like to introduce FBI Special Agent in Charge, Jonathan Tapp. Thank you.
The best way to attract high-ticket coaching clients is not to spend all your time and money on social media.
Good morning, folks. Thank you, Chief. I'm Jonathan Tapp, Special Agent in Charge of the FBI here in New Orleans. Today marks day 13 in our search for escapees Antoine Massey and Derek Groves, and we want you to know that we will find them. The FBI remains committed to supporting our law enforcement partners to recapture these dangerous inmates. The FBI has utilized every resource at our disposal to locate and apprehend the remaining 2 fugitives. Agents and analysts have been working every day to ensure that credible leads are pursued with urgency. And that's not just here in New Orleans, but across the country. What we need from you, the public, is to continue to give us leads. If you think you've seen either of these men or have any information, call 911, call Crime Stoppers, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can submit a tip at fbi.gov/New Orleans fugitives, but please report any information. We're also announcing that we, the FBI, are increasing our potential reward per inmate, Massey and Groves, from $10,000 to $20,000 with our partners. We want you to know the FBI handles every lead with discretion, and we do our utmost to preserve anonymity. But sometimes this is difficult. We understand with our law enforcement partners that some of you might be reporting a friend, a loved one, a relative, and albeit not easy, it is critical to your safety and the safety of the public that you report that. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Colonel Hodges.
Thank you, SAC Tapp. Good morning, everyone. 2 weeks in, and our mission remains unchanged. In locating and apprehending the remaining fugitives is our top priority. You see them on the monitor to your left, my right, and it shows 8 cats.
I'm going to tell you right now, if one of those nefarious people who escaped was my relative, and then they call themselves coming to me for help, honey, I'm turning your ass in. Because what I'm not going to do is end up in prison right beside you because I helped. Okay, because I aided and abetted. Honey, miss me with it. Your ass is going right back to prison where you belong. Okay, right back to jail. Okay, so anyway, they only have 2 of them left. Now remember, there were 10 of them that escaped. Now, what my question is what is going to happen to the maintenance man who turned off the water so they could escape? Remember, he said they threatened his life and threatened his family. And so he went ahead and did it out of fear. But he didn't even say anything about it, even a day after they had already escaped or whatever. So, you know, they've charged him with a myriad of crimes, honey. So I don't know how that's going to work out for him. But I hope that they give him some grace because he was so scared. But quite frankly, after they were gone, or when they first told him to do it, he probably should have just reported it then, okay? Anyway, see, there is nothing wrong with being afraid, but at the end of the day, you cannot allow fear to stop you from doing what you need to do. That's just my philosophy. Okay, so 1 minute ago from CNN, Mia, one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants, testified that she never initiated sexual contact with Combs or told him that she wanted to have sex with him. She said the sexual acts or assaults were always sporadic and didn't follow a pattern, but that happened when Combs didn't have a girlfriend around. She said their dynamic was that there were never any boundaries. She says it wasn't weird for me to be in his room at all hours of the night or waking him up or talking to him while he was on the toilet. What? This is all crazy, honey. I'm not talking to him while he's on the damn toilet. Imagine doing that to your boss, talking to him while you're on while he's on a toilet, or being in his room all times of night. No, after he's done all this assaulting, definitely would have had to quit. Mia testified that she always thought there would be a next time, or thought there wouldn't be a next time, because they were so random and spaced out. I always thought that the next time I would, if there were ever a next time, that I would somehow be more prepared. Mia said after the sexual assault, she would keep it moving. There wasn't time to stop and think and reflect on anything. Just keep it moving like it never happened. See, I want you all to pay attention to something. You see how she said that it would be sporadic, it would happen, like it would be months apart or whatever, and just out of the blue he would do it. This is the behavior of a serial killer. Diddy is a serial rapist from the sounds of it, because that's what they do. Serial killers, like, they'll go and kill somebody, and then there's what they call a cooling off period, where they won't kill anybody for weeks, months, okay? And then they'll all of a sudden just pop out and kill somebody again. This is what Diddy was doing to her from the sounds of it. Huh? This is all so sick and clearly disgusting. All right. So anyway, from 4 minutes ago, Inner City Press says, Mia says, I will be humiliated, never work again. AUSA says, and who would do these things? She said, Puff and all his people. This was way before social media and #MeToo. There was this confidentiality. AUSA says, did others speak up? She says, Kayla Faulkner, not sure of the spelling. And so AUSA says, how do you mean? Or how did you hear? She says, I heard there was an urgent call among film people. AUSA says, what did you hear? The judge says, lay some context. AUSA says, who was on the call? Mia says, HR, C-suite executives. AUSA says, what were you told? She says she was told if she sued, I would have to testify. Okay, because that's somebody who spoke up. I wonder where she is and why she hasn't been called to testify. This person, Kayla Faulkner. Okay, so then they say, Mia says, I was supposed to say that she was drinking and punched me, and that's why she was fired. AUSA says, was that why? She says, no, it was because she complained. AUSA says, when else were you told you'd have to testify? She said, after Capricorn Clark. Okay, that was Inner City Press. Now back to CNN from less than a minute ago. Mia says she never wanted to engage in acts with Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutor Madison Smizer asked Mia if she ever told Combs no during the acts that she described. She says, no, I only tried to squiggle out of them if I could. Smizer asked, why didn't she tell Combs no? She said, I couldn't tell him no. Like about a sandwich? I couldn't tell him no about anything. There's no way I could tell him no. Mia said that she was afraid that she would become a target. She said he would fire me and ruin my future and somehow twist the story into making me look like a threat. Ooh, this sounds like a one-way street to hell, okay? Anyway, that's all the updates for now. Court's going to be ending at 4 o'clock, so we have like 11 minutes to go.
Captured and 2 remaining. Over the past 2 weeks, strong collaboration with our Crime Stoppers, Darlene and her team, local, state, and our federal partners that you see to my left and right and behind me have been with them, we've taken 8 of the 10 safely back into custody and transported them to a secure state facility in Louisiana. Additionally, multiple individuals who aided these fugitives after their escape have been arrested. I want to be clear. Anyone who chooses to help the remaining fugitives in any way will be arrested and prosecuted. The decision is simple.
Did you all hear that? They said the people who helped them have also been arrested. Who is idiotic enough to help these people? Okay, who is idiotic enough to help these people? They have already thrown their lives away, and they're eventually going to get caught. That's just what happens when you escape. You don't just go off into the sunset and live happily ever after. You at some point get caught. So why would anybody risk their own freedom and safety by helping these fools? Now they're sitting in jail and probably going to prison. Okay, retired federal officer says, great job, Professor QueenAShakur. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. This is all crazy.
Assist law enforcement and potentially earn a reward, or try to assist these fugitives and go to jail with a potentially high bond. As SAC TAP said, we know their family members, their friends, but they are a public safety risk for you, everyone around you, and the entire state of Louisiana. You must do the right thing. With Crime Stoppers increasing the reward amount, now is the time to make the right choice. Turn in valuable information and help us bring them in safely and receive a reward.
Speaking of rewards, do you all remember when Brian Nichols escaped and that woman who helped him? Now, she clearly was helping him. I'm sorry. I think he knew her beforehand. I always felt like something was going on with that. But then, rather than getting arrested, she turned him in at the end and got $40,000 for the reward money. Do you all remember that? Now, that lady, in my opinion, knew him from the get-go, was helping him, and it was both their plan for her to turn him in so she could get that $40,000. And she probably put money on his books, honey, while he was sitting up in there. I'm just saying, I never believed that she didn't know that man from the get-go. Okay? That just made no sense to me.
All contact information is available.
I want an app.
On our websites, our social media platforms, and can be shared again following this conference. This remains an evolving investigation. Things change. I want to thank our Texas DPS troopers who helped us Monday. I also want to thank our Baton Rouge City Police here in Louisiana who helped us also capture a fugitive on Monday as well. We'll continue to share updates with the public as more information becomes available. Please follow our social media pages and for the latest developments on what we have. Once again, this is a team effort. It takes all of us. That's why you have the New Orleans Police Department, you have the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and even those who are not with us up here right now, our state probation and parole, our sheriffs in the neighboring parishes, and many other agencies, Harbor Police, our Orleans and Jefferson Levee District. All of those agencies are instrumental in working this operation around the clock. So please know that the public, once again, that we are working for you. It's for all of Louisiana. And as mentioned, sometimes these dangerous fugitives travel outside our borders. So we need everyone's help. If you're listening and you're in another state and you have a tip or another parish or another city, please contact us. This concludes our conference, and we'll take any questions.
When this man had started, we heard a lot about law enforcement, about being pretty confident that inmates were still in the metro area. We now know, 2 arrests in Texas, 1 in Baton Rouge. So kind of, do you guys have any idea geographically about where Bureau Grove and Von Massey are today?
So once again, we have some strong leads, but these remaining 2 fugitives, they have help, and therefore they move. And sometimes they move outside New Orleans, outside Louisiana, because they have help. And at this time, we're confident that we're closing in on the remaining 2 escapees, and that we should have them in custody soon. but law enforcement is patient, but more importantly, we're resilient. And although they're going to get tired and frustrated as they try to move around Louisiana or move around the metropolitan area, they know the walls are closing in, and very soon we'll have them in custody.
So you do think they're in the Louisiana metro area?
We're confident that we have strong investigative leads as to their whereabouts. But we still need the public's help, because as soon as we get one lead, then they relocate to another place, whether that's a home or business or a public area.
Okay, so another update from CNN. Less than a minute ago, Mia, one of Sean Diddy Combs' former assistants, testified that another assistant had previously told Combs' chief of staff that she thought Combs had hit Cassie Ventura. Mia said that she was told there was an urgent phone call with high-level employees to discuss how to handle the assistant. After the phone call, that assistant was fired. Mia said Combs later told her that assistant had filed a lawsuit, and Mia may need to take the stand to testify against her regarding an incident where that assistant had punched her. Mia says she didn't end up testifying. Combs also told her that she would have to testify when Capricorn Clark was fired. He said that if there was a lawsuit, I would have to get up on the stand and defend him and say, you know, what he wanted me to say. Honey, that's threats and coercion. Okay, I'm not seeing how these people don't see this as a RICO. Okay, I'm not seeing how they don't see it. Now, from Inner City Press 3 minutes ago, AUSA says, why didn't you tell us at first about the sexual assaults? Mia said, it's the most shameful thing of my life. AUSA says, did you get a lawyer for this testimony? She says, yes. AUSA says, did you speak about the sexual assaults before or after you got the lawyer? She said, after. AUSA says, do you want to be talking about these sexual assaults? She said, no, it's traumatizing. She says, why are you here today? The judge says, Ms. Smizer, you've asked that. AUSA Smizer says, we could break here. Jurors, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so case is dismissed for today. We'll be back tomorrow with further updates. I hope you all enjoyed it. Everyone enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay, with that all being said, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me?